Welcome, it's SVPod, Stanford Steve. Brad.
Yep.
Made his way in.
Halftime.
He's laid out on the Oriental here. As we take inventory, which is the game plan moving forward. Tuesdays, recap as we're back from Monday Night Football. Philly, quite a scene. Jason Kelsey, back. Start with sending prayers to Dumpf.
Or Dumpf.
That's the dude, the shirtless guy with the Philly fanatic tat and all the various
Muppets?
A lot of Muppet tattoos. Yeah. That's what we would call them. As we come on the air for Countdown, he asks Kelsey, can we get down at a 3-point stance and do a chest bump?
To start the show.
Correct. As a general rule, you want to avoid taking on future Hall of Fame centers in a physical activity where he's probably a little bit juiced up and going to hit you. You're not a professional athlete.
No.
It doesn't appear. Man across the line from you is. You meet in the midair. He lands. Didn't stick the landing. Appears to be an ACL. As we talk, he told Kelsey he was going to go see his chiropractor today. Dumpf. That's a back doc. We need an ortho to check that out. So
that ain't sciatica. That's your ACL.
Thoughts and prayers to Dumpf after the knee. Thoughts and prayers to Philly. You all were heading towards victory. 3rd and 3 play call. I didn't hate the play call. In fact, I liked the play call. It's aggressive. It was there, and Saquon Barkley dropped the ball. And then I don't know what Fangio's defense is doing, but Cousins was going with tempo, clean pocket, and it went right down the field. And I'm happy for Kirk Cousins. New guy in a new town, looked like ass week 1. They get a win with a drive that's what you do. That's why you pay a guy all that money, to win a game that's there to be won. And I love that Cousins said something afterwards. He goes, it's a total team effort. Jesse Bates got the pick. It's like, I've been in games where we've scored and then, the other team goes down and scores. And see, then that becomes, Cousins, he took a loss. Well, if the last time you possess the ball, you lead a scoring drive and then your defense gives it up, that's on you? It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. There's a lot cooked into it. I was thinking about it after the fact. Philadelphia had enough time, and Elliott's leg's huge. Hurts tried to get a big chunk. They had a timeout, and there's about 30 seconds left. They only needed about 10 more yards to try a field goal. And now Philly's lost 4 games since last year, 3 since week 15 of last year, where they've had the lead in the last 2 minutes. And this is a horrible trend for them. I would think for that to happen this early, I'm not saying it's going to send them spiraling, but it ain't good. It's a bad trend for them. They can't finish games. I don't know why that is.
Well, I just go back to the 2-minute thing, and I said it on the show last night. Every single quarterback in the world loves 2-minute. And it's as predictable as a defense can be. They can't disguise things. They could change coverages on the back end. But the general sense of what teams play in 2-minute. And Kirk Cousins, being a veteran that he is, was as comfortable as we saw him. Was out there early, watching him and Penix warm up. And I'm like, man, this is different. Old guy takes a little longer than the young buck that just comes out there with the beats on and starts slinging it, man. Like that guy.
Loosen up the old wing.
I could watch Michael Penix throw a football all day long. It's incredible. But no, this was about the Falcons. When you look at all the changing parts, you look at Raheem Morris talking on a bunch of I want to definitely tell a kicking story about the equipment staff later that I found fascinating. But, Raheem Morris is a guy in that business, they don't usually get a second chance. And when you think about what he was, he's a coordinator for forever and did a great job. And then he got his chance with the Buccaneers. And it really feels like those coordinators that are coordinators for that long. And then finally it's like, all right, we're going to, they interview, the narrative was always make sure you mention, I got an interview there. I interviewed for that one. So then the next year, all right, he already interviewed for this. And a lot of times, I would say over 80% of the times, those jobs suck. But you got to take them because it's an NFL head coaching job. And what is there, 32? Like we've always said, right?
That's yeah.
And you look at it. I mean, look at Canales in Carolina.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But to come back and then, you know, lead that Rams defense, was he the coordinator for the Super Bowl? I think he was.
I believe I get it confused because there's so much movement with that, but that sounds right.
And then you get a crack at it again. And, you know, I mean, never heard a bad word about Mr. Blank. Like people that have worked in that organization, there's people that have been there a long time. When you go to that stadium, the idea of a hot dog costing $2 and a soda is $1, that doesn't happen in this world. That's because of the owner and what he wants. So, like, it's always and they're always going to have 28-3 you know, thrown in their face. They've changed the regime plenty of times, and it was just really cool. Like watching that game, that team, you felt a sense of urgency. You knew that this was a spot in the bright lights, how bad they looked the week before, and I said it in the preseason. I'm going to try and not to overreact to what we look at these teams look like in the first month.
Right.
And this was a perfect example, and it was the story of the weekend when you look at it in general.
Yeah, a lot of road teams winning and won. I said it before at the very end of Countdown when am I going to come here and stare into the eyes of the monster and pick Atlanta? No, but I did say, if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, I'm saying it's Philly close. Philly by 3, which would have been enough if you were on the other side. Saquon squeezes that, they win by 3. He doesn't. And Atlanta goes down the field. It was the pace of it that was, because I'm down on the field waiting to come on because we're on TV when it's over. And it was a throw to Pitts, 2 throws to Mooney, and they were at the 10 in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Always ahead of schedule. I'm saying to Ryan as we're standing there, they could run, you have the whole playbook available. You can run Bijan if you want, and you don't have to rush. And I almost wonder, in a perfect world, you can't thread the needle exactly the way you want. You can't get cute with it and try to exhaust the clock and let's score as we hit zeros. You can't do that. But when they scored, looking up at how much time there was, you're thinking, oh, Philly's going to have a chance. They're going to win it on a field goal because that's been the big story of the NFL thus far is more field goals than touchdowns through 2 weeks, which is insane. But hard to score in the red zone. It was hard to score in the red zone last night until that 3rd and 5 London route where he faked in, and Ryan Clark told a great story that defenders are more nervous than anyone because you don't want to be the guy that gets got. And Slay was, and then he was tweeting it out, that's on me. And I say it's on Philly's whole defense. Atlanta looked like it was like 7-on-7s.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's why they love to win it.
No pressure.
Nope.
And Cousins is like, I got you. Got Mooney. Did you start Mooney in your fantasy?
I did not.
How come?
I don't know.
I quit.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
2 more things about that game.
Okay, go.
The amount of snaps the Falcons got in the red zone and in that tight red, they call it. You go back to the beginning of the game, field goals. But you know what they did? They kicked them. They kicked the field goals.
Yeah, crazy how that goes. No, you don't kick. No,
plus 3 plus 3. That's 9.
9 points.
That's more than a touchdown. If I'm right in this league, it's still more
I don't
than
know.
a touchdown.
You're not supposed to kick field goals. You're a loser.
But
you don't understand football. You don't know ball, Steve.
No,
you don't know ball.
I know. I try and watch the games. But that end of the half, the Falcons had a bunch of snaps from, I'd say, the 15 going in, and then they knew how that's not interference with McLeod to play before the touchdown. I mean, if that's not home field, he's turned around the whole way. It's in the back of the end zone. No flag.
It actually is better for him because it opened up. It gave him a little more room to operate, which allowed Drake to fake the end, and then it's a perfect route, and it's the perfect ball for Cousins to throw, and he delivers it perfectly. And they needed that. Just go ahead.
Yeah, no, just one quick thing. Kirk said it's a play they've been working on. Drake came up to me after the game, coming out to talk to you. He's like, man. He's like, this is crazy. I still am trying to, I'm going on with him. We just won. He's like, my first Monday night game, I have no idea what's going on. I said, real quick, though, Kirk said that you guys that's the play you've worked on the most in the red. He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, we had that one waiting, and that was the time to do it. And he's like, I was so open, I just wanted to catch it.
Yeah, I think we can all relate to that. Sometimes you can be too open, right, on a shot in basketball, and it's wide effing open. But it happens so quick, and it's just second nature, and you're a high-level NFL receiver. You're going to catch that ball. But Saquon was all alone, and he dropped it, and that's
those out routes. What are you going to do with your hands?
Tricky.
Real tricky.
I like right over left, right?
Touch your thumbs.
There you go. He played receiver.
Not your pinkies.
Atlanta's got to have that. Their next 3 games, Kansas City, New Orleans, Tampa Bay. Those are 3 of the undefeateds. We'll talk about some of the undefeateds. You said you wanted to talk about the kicking?
Yeah.
The Atlanta kicking? What?
So I'm doing ESPN Bet. You guys are getting ready to go on outside. So it's just me and the equipment staffs for both teams. And I had a segment off in the show, so I went over. I was like, hey, I got to ask. These balls, 60-yarders, you guys watched the game last. Like, what's going on here? Like, we got something in these. I know they're the K balls, the whole 9. And they're as honest guys as they could be. The equipment guys are awesome. And they're like, no. And then they pull over. It's like, hey, this is Josh. Josh is the guy that does the draft for the balls. I'm like, what are you talking about, draft?
Ball draft.
Ball drafting. I'm like, okay. 2.5 hours. They go to a hotel. And the home team, equipment manager, and the away team, there's 6 balls. You draft the balls. You get not snake draft. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There's a ball draft in some hotel room?
I swear to God. Listen. Then you get 1 hour. Equipment guy gets 1 hour.
Alone with the ball?
You get a brush, a bottle of water, and a towel. And you work on you get an hour to work on the balls. Yeah. Ball washers.
Hey, now.
And then you have to give them back to the refs at the hotel, or they give them to you at the stadium, and you get an hour. Then you don't get them. They don't kick with them in practice. They don't kick like when Koo's kicking on the net next to me. Those are just regular footballs.
Uh-huh.
They only come out in between the out of bounds. And he talks about, he's like, we're lucky. He's like, we're a dome team. Balls don't. He's like, we had 2 rain games. We almost got to the 3rd ball. And I'm like, so these guys don't kick these balls all day long. He's like, nope. They never kick them until that spot in the game. And I'm like, that's pretty crazy.
That's wild.
Right?
I had absolutely no idea that this little part of that was a thing. And I will say this, as I was down on the field getting ready to do halftime, one of the K balls was right there by the net. I just picked it up and just holding it sort of just absent-mindedly. You know me, I always have like a baseball in my hand, just have nervous energy. I just like to have something. So I picked it up. The thing, I think people know this, but most of you wouldn't have access to be on the sideline in an NFL game to just grab a ball. It's an enormous football.
It's huge.
It's hard to when they talk about like all these measurements at the combine. That's why they're worried about size of quarterback's hands. The ball is fucking huge, and I'm holding it thinking, I'm trying to figure out how far I could wing this thing, and it feels like it would slip out of my hand. And I don't have small hands, but you got to have mitts, man. And I'm used to run. We're playing flag. Pick up one of those K2s. You could throw that like Uncle Rico. I could throw this thing over the mountains, man. That's really wild. The whole
nuts.
Whatever's going on. You know what? We're going to get to all these 2-0 teams and whatever else. But the kicking right now, it really is through 2 games, it's a huge topic because there are more field goals made than touchdowns. Part of it is that scoring in the red zone, and we saw it Monday night, is incredibly difficult to do. Scoring touchdowns at all. Washington won a game. They didn't score one.
Mm-hmm.
It's 7 field goals. And just
they won
like,
and they only kicked field goals?
They did.
Wow, so you can.
So you're actually allowed to. I
win.
know this is nuts. And I mean, again, we don't know ball because you got to go for it. And I always love when Joe on Monday night is like, well, analytics say to go for it. Of course it does. Just if it's like, should I go for it? Analytics like, go for it, loser, dunce.
Don't be scared.
3 points. It's like putting your change in a jar. It's like, you know what change in a jar adds up to? It adds up to dollars. You just got to put it in. You just got to put the change in the jar. The thing that's happened is that in the way that if 3-point shooting, like back in the day, he can make shots from 3. That was a thing. Like you were like looked at as some sort of an anomaly, a space alien. He can shoot it from behind the arc. I mean, that's a long. Well, now obviously that's how you play the game. Mark Mosley, who kicked for the Washington Redskins, now Commanders, won an MVP, which is one of the most impossible things for people to process, but he did. And he was a straight-on kicker, and he could make
a perm.
He did have a perm one year, but he could make a 50-yarder, and it was like, whoa, he's got a big leg, 50 yards. This year, through 2 weeks, NFL kickers not named Justin Tucker are 35 for 37 from 50 or beyond. I'm going to do the math on that because I want to get the number.
Who had them basically make a 50-yarder extra point to win the game?
Right, because London got called for unsportsmanlike.
Yep.
That's 95% is the hit rate on 50+.
Just math.
Justin Tucker's 0 for 2. Justin Tucker, who for years...
Oh, he spazzed out the other day. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I love kicker spazzes.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's a fragile psyche, man.
Mm.
And Tucker's still Tucker. You're still you. I mean, it's not...
Ever since he went at the Chiefs.
Relax with that. He's got a routine.
He didn't
creature of habit. You can relate to knowing a guy who's a little bit of a creature of habit.
How many Diet Cokes yesterday?
Oh, it was a lot.
Holy shit, you drank a lot.
I just keep throwing a sip. I don't feel great at the end of a Monday. I'm like, you know what? I think probably 15 is probably enough.
On the plane last night, how about a water?
Yeah, I asked for one. My body is just craving. My body. Please just give me.
You drank over 20 Diet Cokes yesterday.
I don't think so.
Yes, you did.
Whatever it was. We
got to ask the source.
Well, they keep handing them to me, and I just keep
stop.
They do. I'm sitting up on the set. They keep bringing them to me. 35 and 37 from 50+.
Yeah. Kick it.
Well, they're going to make them. You know why? Because they got guys meeting over at the Clarion with the balls and a towel, getting them ready. A brush and a towel.
And water.
Whatever they're doing. It's like an art form. And now the conversation is people are too good. They have to figure something out. Narrow the goalposts. It's just no.
Why do we keep fucking with kickers?
Thank you. They're just.
You already moved the extra point back. You saw what it made it almost do last night. I that's why I was worried. I'm like, they did all that, and now they're gonna miss a 50-yarder.
Koo was like, bang, have some.
Koo got some lettuce.
Oh yeah, I love it. He's got really, really excellent hair. Kicking is they're just too good at their job. So then. Now you want to make it harder for they're just great at it. Sorry. Shall we dive into
Head first. Let's go. What do you got?
The 2-0s, and I'm starting with New Orleans.
Okay.
They beat Carolina week 1, and you're like, oh, it's Carolina.
47, right? They scored 47.
Correct. Okay. Well, now we're going to see because they're going to go to Dallas. What do we see? 44 more. They have 14 drives in the first, second, and third quarter. They've scored on every single one of them. Get to the fourth quarter, they're up by 1 million, whatever they do. It doesn't make any difference. They've scored on some then, but not as many. They scored touchdowns on 6 consecutive drives against the Dallas Cowboys. And there were 2 things that worked there. Number one, apparently the Saints offense is clearly they've got a lot going on. They're multiple. They got to take the top off the guy, take the top off the defense guy and Shaheed, who's got bombs for touchdowns in both games 1 and 2. You got Kamara, who looks healthy and motivated, and he's the most effortless glider. When he runs, I think he's my favorite guy to watch run on the open field because it looks like he's on ice skates. He scored 4. You got Olave, Carr, et cetera, et cetera. They're good on offense, and Dallas's defensive issues remain.
If Derek Carr is going to play like this, and what I mean by is he's taking the governor off. He's not holding the ball. He's not throwing the ball away. He's taking shots down the field. That's all anybody ever wanted. That's all he ever did at Fresno State with Devontae Adams. There's a confidence he has in his receivers now, which you haven't really seen maybe a couple years with Devontae. Going back to college, and then I was trying to think who the receiver was in Oakland that he had the years with, and then he got hurt before they went to the playoffs. But it's it's the first thing I see. Is he holding on to the ball? Is he trying to be too protective, too conservative? No, he's throwing the football down the field. He's giving his receivers chances. Love what they have at that position. And that's the biggest difference to me with the Saints.
They're 2-0, and it's pretty eye-opening what they've done. And they got Philly coming in this week. Pretty interesting spot for both teams because, you beat Carolina and people can eye roll. You beat Dallas and Philly back-to-back. If that happens, they're 3-0, and it would leave Philly 1-2, and now we're like, what are we doing with Philly? Minnesota's 2-0. They beat the Giants week 1. Same thing as beating Carolina. You kind of go, Well, then they beat San Francisco. And Darnold to Jefferson, 97-yarder. That's a fun sort of eye candy moment. But what was notable coming out of that I mentioned it last night very briefly on Countdown. There was that on-field video of Brock Purdy that looked for Brian Flores to say, hey, that scheme you guys got cooking, Minnesota gets after you, and they bring pressure, a ton of pressure. You talk about a guy, coordinator, head coach, obviously what happened with Miami and the way that ended and lawsuits and what have you. But in that role with Minnesota, with Kevin O'Connell, the head coach who doing a nice job with Darnold. And it appears Jefferson, by the way, is okay day-to-day. They think avoided major injury. But an early statement win to beat San Francisco without McCaffrey, but it's the Minnesota defense watching that game. They pressured him. They turned him over. Try not to overreact because that's a tough division. But Minnesota, they 2 games in. I'm saying that's real.
Absolutely. Happened last week. I said I love the idea of this team because you have a journeyman quarterback as the head coach, and now you have a journeyman quarterback who was people thought the best quarterback in that draft class coming out. There's an edge there. You see it with the play call. You don't see many people take a shot on a 97-yard bomb backed up against the reigning NFC champions. That coach and that quarterback did it. That's a scary deal for opponents because now everything is available. They had a chance to go up even more, and Aaron Jones put one on the turf.
Well, that was Fred Warner, who's an absolute monster. It's a learned, taught skill to punch the ball out, and Jones is going in, and it's at the 1-yard line, and Fred, nope. I'll take that. And that actually turned into a 99-yard drive the other way for San Francisco to narrow the gap. But Minnesota was able to add a field goal and hang on, and they end up winning that one.
Would you say it's a learned
behavior? A taught
How about
skill.
The interception?
Which one?
Warner's.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite players. And he's also a great interview.
You know what? We need your favorite player list.
Fred Warner's on my favorite player list. It would just be long. I would just say everybody because you know me. I love that guy. Fred Warner, I love that guy.
He's awesome.
He really is.
Worried about the Niners?
I am.
Because of injuries.
Well, we'll get back to the 2-0s. The injury list 2 weeks in is just insane. Insane. And this is where the fantasy reality thing comes in. The reality is if you're San Francisco and you don't have McCaffrey and you don't have Debo, part of what makes their offense so terrifying is how versatile and multiple they are. Well, all right, Mason steps in.
Mm-hmm.
You're not McCaffrey, but he scored in both games and looks nice. I don't know. Debo's more irreplaceable than anybody just because he's used more in more ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he's down for a couple of weeks. This is just a partial list of people who have missed time or are going to miss significant times. Debo and McCaffrey, I just mentioned. No one's more banged up than the LA Rams. Kupp and Puka. And then all their linemen, a bunch of defender plays. I'm talking about from the fantasy perspective, talking about guys that get drafted in the first couple of rounds of drafts. Pacheco's out. A.J. Brown missed last night for Philly. He said he's going to miss some time. I think he told Lisa he thinks he's going to miss more weeks than that. Justin Jefferson came out of the game, but it appears he's all right. Kenneth Walker missed a game for Seattle last week. He scored week 1. They're a 2-0 team. Love for Green Bay. Tua, we don't know what the situation is for him moving forward. It's 2 weeks in, and you're talking about significant players that are missing time, and that's just in the fantasy realm. it seems like it's more. You're smiling at me because you think I'm like I only have a couple of these guys on teams. It's not. This isn't that I'm. I mean, we're going to have to do some waiver maneuvering.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone will, but these are impactful, significant players. It just feels like this. It's way too early for it to be like, holy shit, what are we doing here?
I think it happens every year.
Does it?
Yeah.
This much?
I equate it to COVID.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the analogy?
You had COVID.
I did.
It was real, right?
I mean, I still can't taste lobster, which is
what'd you do all summer?
I mean, I still
Crab
eat it.
cakes?
I just put a shit ton of butter because I could taste butter, but the lobsters, I lost my taste. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a real thing.
I never had it.
So you don't care?
I don't know.
So your thing is, if my team doesn't have injuries, I don't care?
People freak out when injuries happen to their team. They don't. Once you get hit with it, it's a whole different level of panic. What you laugh at other people when it happens to them is like, look who you took. It happens every year. It happens to different people, and it's just a matter if you do it long enough, you're going to get affected by it.
One of the guys I play in one of the leagues where I don't know anybody. I've never met this guy. He's a big-time Joe Catta, a big-time poker superstar.
Undefeated?
In this league, yeah, it's 2-0, no big deal. He sent me a lineup. He has Love, Mostert, Walker, Brown, Debo, Njoku, Kupp, the Saints defense, Graham Gano. Every single person on that team, either out or doubtful or whatever. That's so. I guess to your point, if you're him, you're like, God, this is awful. But if you've got if everybody's fine on your team, then you're just looking at Cata going, ha!
Yeah.
Tough break, buddy.
And that's why I still say fantasy basketball and baseball are better because it's longer seasons and you have time to adapt. Football,
But there's this. This is all right. This is fantasy. The reality is, if you're San Francisco, it impacts you significantly. If you're Green Bay, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. How about Malik? Good for him.
Oh, that run game,
bro. They went for. That was a combination of two things. Green Bay can really run it, and the Colts early on are really having a hard time.
Colts heads were on a swivel. They had no idea what was going on. There was cross motion right down at you, quarterback involved. Like that's a defensive coordinator's nightmare. I think that's what happened. Not to pile on or make excuses, but like Florida against A&M, it's like, wait, what? They got their quarterback's not playing? We didn't prepare for a running quarterback, and you saw what happened there. Anyway, that's what kind of happened to the Colts.
All right, back to some 2-0s.
Yeah.
Because New Orleans beating Dallas the way they did, Minnesota beating San Francisco the way they did, I think it changes the way people look at them if they were prepared to not look at them as being real. And I don't think anybody was talking – no one was talking Saints before the season started because everyone was like Atlanta – I don't think people are talking about Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's 2-0.
I am.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's 2-0. Our Hemi Award nominees, I said Todd Bowles because if Detroit would have won that game, we'd have said, the Lions, Dan Campbell, they're a reflection of their coach. Love Dan Campbell, but love Todd Bowles too. Old school coach. They're down, like more injuries. Vita Vea, game record, gets hurt in the third quarter. No Antoine Winfield, one of the best guys in the back end of your defense in the NFL.
A right tackle that couldn't block Aiden Hutchinson.
Also true. They were down a lot. They got basically doubled up in yardage. They got out of there with a win. They're 2-0. No one talked about them in the offseason, even though they had won their division and a playoff game. They've started 3-0 2 straight years.
Papa Bake. Did you see what he said about his 11-yard rush?
What did he say?
Somebody said that's your longest NFL rush of your career, and he just looked at me and said, really? That's sad.
See, we know Baker's son, and I could
the best.
You know, he's got an edge to him.
Fall.
I get it. People think he's cocky. He is, but he's also a guy that I think has that gear too.
No doubt.
Like a little bit of laugh at himself. I think you bounce around.
He makes my eyes tear every game though when he does the smelling salt, man. God, how much do you need, Bake?
Give me more. Tampa's 2-0.
How about that division?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think people look at the NFC South and say that's a bum-ass division. That division feels top to bottom pretty. I mean, well, Carolina's.
I just can't imagine the amount of money that's been lost on people trying to predict that division.
Well, I mean, just
always somebody.
Yeah, every year.
Carolina had their run. I know they're out of it now, but go ahead. 2-0.
Seattle's 2-0. They beat Denver and New England.
Probably the team I've watched the least.
I actually saw a decent amount of both of them. Why? Fantasy impacts. You're paying attention. New England's playing hard. I give Mayo credit, man. And Brissett's exactly what, like, that's why they're playing him, because you don't want to throw May to the Wolves, and Brissett's a professional that, quote unquote, gives us a chance to win. That's exactly what he does. They beat Cincy. They lost in overtime in that game.
I was say, as good as the week 1 win was, you got a winnable game at home where that fan base is dying, to get back involved, and you lose, and now you go Thursday night at the Jets. That's a big spot to show up for the Patriots if you got something.
Look, they were predicted to win like 4 games.
Understood.
They won 1. They competed in another. They don't suck. People acted like they're going to be. They don't. So I mean, like, they're used to parades. I don't think, like, hey, like, put that on the bumper sticker. Hey, Patriots, maybe we don't suck. They don't. Bunch of 2-0s in the AFC. Buffalo. They beat Arizona and Miami. They made Tua look horrible.
And Kyler.
Prior to the injury, and we'll see what the decision from Tua is moving forward. He doesn't want to stop playing football. I just wonder how long a time frame is he out. No idea. And Mike McDaniel's right. It's like, it's best just don't speculate. Let the guy figure it out on his time.
Seriously.
It's his time to decide it all.
No one knows.
No.
So why are we going to keep talking about it?
Well, we're not. I'm saying that'll suffice for us.
Good.
But they also beat Kyler in week 1, and the way Kyler played week 2, you're like, that's a dangerous cat when he's right. Also, maybe throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a good idea. And what was cool is that afterwards, Harrison didn't want to talk about the touchdowns. He said,
of course he didn't.
Huh?
I said, of course he didn't. He doesn't want to talk at all.
He doesn't, but here's what he did say. He said the 4 incompletions that Kyler had in this game only had 4 incompletions. He said they were all to me. So he's like, I got to be better. That's well done.
I didn't even see a target after they went up 21.
Well done, young man. Pittsburgh's 2-0, beat Atlanta, beat Denver. Standard is the standard. I've watched more Denver than I wished I would have watched. Boy,
they're not 2-0.
Boy, that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do on offense. Not a lot of completing the ball downfield. Houston, the Chargers, KC, also 2-0. The Chargers, I think, is the least. It's not going to wow you because they're going to win it the way Harbaugh wants to win it. Good for J.K. Dobbins. I think everyone's psyched for him. Continue to root for him. I just want the guy to be healthy.
Correct.
But he's earned this happiness. Off to a fast start. Houston just terrorized Caleb Williams. Yep. That defense, and by the way, the Bears defense was tremendous in that game.
Awesome.
Tremendous. But boy, did Houston look at Caleb Williams and say, all right, buddy, let's see what you got. We're coming.
I think they more looked at the offensive line and said, let's see what you got. Because you can't handle us.
No, not if we're going to bring Daniil Hunter on one side and Will Anderson on the other and pressure up the middle. It was crazy.
But the additions, that Shahir guy, I mean, let's keep the punches at a minimum. But the back end, I love what I've seen. But again, no one will say it. I give the Bears credit because I didn't think C.J. Stroud looked good in the second half after they came out. And that's another thing. Going back, we talk about 2-minute. Quarterbacks love being in 2-minute. How many teams score on their first drive is unbelievable with the scripts.
Scripts.
Unreal.
Have a plan.
We got to talk scripts for the flag.
Yeah, we need. Got to tighten some stuff up.
That's not 2-0. They're not in the 2-0.
They're not. Got to tighten some things up in or Sunday morning, which turned into Sunday afternoon. Just hours and hours there. Houston kind of touched on a little bit. Chargers, yes. Haven't talked about Kansas City. They're 2-0 and they beat Baltimore and they beat Cincinnati. Oof. If you're younger and you didn't see New England with Brady, this is what it was. You just can't beat them. And it must be infuriating to have to play them because they're, what do you always talk about? Like the horror movie, you got to kill them 10 times. You got to kill them 11 times. And if 15 gets the ball, Good luck. I mean, you talk about what do they pay guys for? To win games in a 2-minute drill.
Mm-hmm.
Take a coin flip game and have it land on our side. With Mahomes, it almost always does. Cincinnati was mostly better in that football game. Mostly better.
Yeah.
91 for Cincinnati. Hendrickson.
Mm-hmm.
Game wrecker, agent of chaos.
Long sleeves, no gloves.
Lived in the Kansas City backfield. Mahomes was not great. Had, 150 passing yards?
Lowest pass total in a game that he started and finished in his career.
Then it's 4th and 16, and Cincinnati rushes 3. And I'm like, oh, God. Now, I don't pretend to be a defensive coordinator. I get it, drop 8. But I don't get it with him because Mahomes is going to know where the pressure's coming from. He'll step in. He'll climb into the pocket. Then he's going to float at the line of scrimmage. And then I've said this on every show I've been on. Something terrible is going to happen to your team because someone's either open or he throws it to Rice, and then there's a PI. And people complain about the Chiefs and the calls. And the part I don't love is it feels like every time I get a shot of Mahomes, he's asking for a flag. Lots of times they get him. In this case, you might not love it, but that's pass interference. Fractionally, but it was in real time. I'm like, ooh, he got there early, and then you see the flag come in, and then you're like, oh, here, because now 35 of 37 from 50 yards, Butker's not missing. He didn't. They didn't even try to get yards. They're like, we're good. Butker will make it, and he buries it from 51. And then Cincinnati leaves their 0-2. Kansas City's 2-0. They survived Baltimore because Likely's toes on the line, and they didn't have to try to stop a 2-point conversion because Baltimore was going to try to go for 2 to get it. And they win a game against Cincinnati where they got outgained, lost the turnover battle, lost the time of possession, and they win. And so here's Kansas City, the reigning champs with Mahomes and everything else that they've got, 2-0 against 2 teams that they've had to deal with in the playoffs. It's September, and already it's like it feels like they've got extra aces in the deck.
Yeah, I'll even go back further when you said if you're young enough and you don't remember the Patriots, this is what it was. I go back to Aikman's Cowboys and Montana's Niners. It was the exact same thing. Don't give them a chance with the ball late in a game because you're going to get it shoved in your face. I had another homework assignment that I fulfilled last night, Monday Night Football. Steve Ackles, producer of Monday Night Football, one of our really good friends, great at what he does. And I sought him out last night because I said one thing. Why is every replay in super slow motion? The game is not in super slow motion. And he says, you know what? It's funny you said that. The Falcons want to go tempo tonight, and we had a conversation. If we show replays, we got to go in fast motion. We don't have time for slow motion. And the reason I say this is because every single play in extra slow motion is pass interference. Every single one. And we are conditioned. It's what they show every single game. And, yeah, anybody could say it's pass interference, but the game's not played in the speed you're watching it on the replays. And I get it. It's a bang-bang play. Is he there early? Of course he is because we see the slow motion. If we don't see the slow motion, we don't know. It won't be as called as much.
They're calling it in real time.
I know. People won't confirm that it's pass interference.
Well, that was PI.
Yeah.
Cincinnati was played great. You lose the game, man. That's a brutal way for your season to start because you're 0-2 again. Cincinnati does have 3 what I would call get-right games. Washington, Carolina, and the Giants. They're at home against Washington. Rookie quarterback.
Commanders got a kicker.
7. Seibert. What's up? We're going out to talk to Jaden Daniels for next on Wednesday morning. I have a little chit-chat with the young man.
Catered?
You know what's funny is if I say to you Joe Theismann, do you know what that means?
You know what I would love to hear from him? Who, after he got drafted by the Commanders, who was the first current quarterback to reach out to him?
Like C.J. Stroud and Bryce are his boys. Those are
put him on the spot.
Those are California guys.
You're not here to throw some layup questions.
Okay.
Let's put him on the spot. He's got giant medallions, too. I hope he wears them.
I'm going to wear all mine, too.
Or you can also walk in with a scale
Mhm.
and say, can you get on this for me? I want to know how much you weigh. I will guarantee he won't do the interview if you do that.
Do you weigh more than 170 pounds? So
that would be awesome.
I'm going to wear all my medallions.
Get Kelsey's brotherly shove charm he had on last night.
That was a cool one.
Or Ryan's.
RC pin. I'm going to get as many things as I have, and I'll bring a scale. Actually, no, we'll do none of that.
We're just brainstorming.
I love it. The 2-0s are the 2-0s. The 0-2s.
Hold on.
Go
Steelers.
Oh, you're right. Pittsburgh. What?
All we did off season was talk about the other three teams in that division. I said Cleveland was the biggest wild card in the whole NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati had to be right because they have the fight and the talent and the tenacity to do it. Haven't shown that. Ravens, you're going to overreact to the 2 games they lost. I am not. But Steelers, who had that? Steelers 2-0, first in the division. Oh wait, no, Cleveland.
They don't have an offensive touchdown, I don't think, right? Is that No, they have the one that they threw. They threw to the big fella from Georgia.
Yeah, big
Washington.
Boy. Yep,
that's an enormous man.
Yes. That's right. I was thinking the whole division was 0-2 besides Pittsburgh, but Cleveland got a win. Who
over Jacksonville
definitely deserves some flowers.
Standard's the standard.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you could just tell they are an absolute wrecking ball to have to go against with your offense. They're an absolute menace to play. You got that maniac 90 on one side that never stops coming, and I'll never let Andy North live it down. When I saw him in college, Big Ten championship game, TJ Watt, 42, Wisconsin, I said, I think his ceiling's higher than JJ's, and he laughed at me. Laughed.
I'd say it's their elevators go to very high floors, both.
When I talk about the ceiling, versatility, he's awesome. Regardless, he's awesome. But the constant pressure, they make you so uncomfortable. When you watch the team that they're playing, I don't know who. They're playing the Chargers. I cannot wait for that. That's a
go Chargers
body bag game. There's going to be some hitting. When you watch the Steelers, watch the H-backs and watch how many times they look across the line of scrimmage to see who they have to block on the other side. You see it. You saw it with Cole Kmet the other night with Will Anderson. It's not a great feeling when that guy is over there is like number 90, or you're leading up in the A-gap and it's Cam Hayward. The constant pressure, they always dictate. Right? Yep. They play havoc games, chaotic games, and you got to keep your poise against them.
Hard to hold your water with Pittsburgh. What's amazing is that they've done it this way for so long, and they don't need exceptional quarterback play. They don't need to score a ton of points because you're not going to score many.
I also asked PR guys from the Falcons last week, I was like, was it true that you had to go silent count in your own building with the Steelers in town? And he didn't say yes. He just looked at me and went,
that's a head shake right there for those listening.
They did.
Look, Steeler fans are on the list of among the highest.
They're America's team.
It's them, Green Bay, Dallas, certainly. Although the look, there are places
they're the most passionate.
And like in terms of like bars in towns that aren't Pittsburgh where people gather to watch Steeler games, it's a really high ratio. And look, the takeovers of stadiums happen a lot. Atlanta's a place where it can happen.
Yeah.
And Atlanta fans
happened in Houston the other night.
Don't get upset with me because it happens in our neighborhood. There are certain places where it's going to be hard for it to happen. It ain't happening at Lambeau. You know, it's just the places where there's high level.
Baltimore.
You're not taking over Baltimore either. You're right. But where there's kind of apathy or you don't have a massive following, then you can get fans come in and take over your joint. And when it's Pittsburgh, I mean, they came to FedEx years ago on a Monday night, and it was like 95% Steeler fans. But you don't have to. They haven't had great quarterback play, and around the NFL, that's something we have to 2 weeks in just acknowledge. 68 passing touchdowns through 2 weeks. From 2018 to 2022, the 5-year average through 2 weeks was 109. So we're talking 41 fewer touchdowns through 2 weeks. fewest passing yards through average for 2 weeks in like almost 20 years. And I don't get it. Don't tell me they don't play in preseason. No shit. They haven't for years. This isn't new. And the idea that, oh, well, they're going to just treat the first month like kind of figure some stuff out. I said this before. This is like treating, like you start a semester in college and you're like, you know what, this first month with the quizzes and the tests, I'm just going to treat them like preseason tests. Well, you know what? They count towards your GPA, buddy. So maybe you should show up prepared. Well, teams don't. That's it. I just don't understand. The rushing numbers are the highest through 2 weeks in 40 years. I don't have a theory.
I do.
Steve's got a theory.
Defenses are always ahead of the offense.
That's always been true.
Okay.
It was true in 2018 through 2022.
When you say no one is playing, I will guarantee the number has increased on the offensive side at multiple positions the last couple of years.
Okay.
And this year it was at a maximum that we've seen. And when you see that, and now you say the run game, now what's the adage now? Everybody was throwing the ball all over the yard. All right, how are we going to get positive plays and keep ourselves in a manageable situation? Run the football. You see the run numbers up. That's what teams have worked on. It's a slower process. There's more things to get on the same page with rather than defenses who know exactly what they're doing and what they want to do and where they want to attack. That's what I have for you.
Okay. Just odd. There's a lot of poor quarterback play. None of the rookie quarterback starters have a touchdown pass through 2 weeks. 0. Daniels, Nix.
1 win?
Williams. Yes. No, 2. Caleb and the Bears won week 1.
They won that
somehow
game
against Tennessee, very inexplicably.
Hey, win's a win.
Commanders, left hand up. They got a win against the Giants. 7 field goals. Bryce Young has been benched in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Pivot to the 0-2s. That situation is a calamity. They're just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have difference makers. The best player they got, Derek Brown, the defender, hurt.
Yep.
He's awesome. But they're going to be better on the O-line. This is this kind of thing where like everyone says Bryce Young's a great guy, and it's like I always feel badly. These are human beings who are trying their best. He looks small. He looks like he's gotten worse. He looks terrified. It's just got to be a horrible feeling if you don't seem confident and nothing's going right.
Mm-hmm.
He threw for 84 yards. He got benched, and like the guy said on Countdown, this is it. Like that you're not coming back from this. There. Doesn't mean it can't work for you down the road. Look at Baker in Tampa.
Uh-huh.
Look at Sam in Minnesota. 2 guys that were in Carolina. Didn't go great for them there either. But the Canales quote about Andy Dalton's going to give us the best chance to win. Okay, he's a pro. He's did it for a long period of time. The point I made on Countdown is like Patrick Mahomes doesn't give them a good chance to win games, or at least not enough. I just think that situation there just seems so fundamentally busted that I don't think there's a fix in the short term.
Start with the owner. Not great. First time. Supposedly making calls on picks. As far as Bryce goes, he looks overwhelmed. And then when you look at his stature,
not the biggest dude,
not the biggest guy, but overwhelmed, rattled, not confident. This guy in college that could put the ball anywhere. His quick release, how fast he got rid of the football was an asset to him because of his lack of size and knowing the weapons he had on the outside. And he's made bad decisions and never really saw that at Alabama. So that's what's kind of disappointing to me. It looks like he has taken a couple steps backward, and I think this is the best thing for him.
Probably.
Try and slow it down, get him back on track. You got a new coach who's had success in this league, coaching quarterbacks and in that position and building up offenses. So
his situation is also it's magnified by the fact if the next guy after he got picked was a big tackle or defensive end, then nobody has anything to say about anything. But the next guy taken was C.J. Stroud, and he looks fantastic. And so I don't know. I feel for a young man. I think about this a lot when it comes to quarterbacks. This is something I'm interested to ask Jaden Daniels about. Imagine graduating college. You're 22 years old, and you get a job as an architect, and then they say, okay, hey, listen, you're going to be in charge of everything. And so you show up to the meeting, and here's a bunch of people that are adults that have been here for a while, and you're the new guy, and you go, all right, guys, here's how we're going to do it. I got some great ideas. Just follow me. And they're looking at you going, cool. You've got to have the minerals. You got to have the juice. Young man leading grown men. I think there's a lot to that. That's why Stroud impressed the hell out of me last year, the way he did it. And you hear the same types of things about Jaden, that he's got a whole lot of confidence, but doesn't walk in the room, act like he knows everything. Like that's a delicate balance. And then, and I get it from Carolina's perspective. Like I'm saying I don't think it matters who the quarterback is, but I do think it matters to the group. If it's September the 16th and everyone's looking around going, we have absolutely no chance if that's our quarterback, and everyone in the room feels that, then as the head coach, you just have to make the move.
Yeah, no doubt. That's why I said it's a great move by Canales.
So look, they throw guys in the deep end now, ready or not. The days of waiting years go back to players. Aaron Rodgers waited. Like Steve McNair waited. And then you get a chance to, all right, I see what it is.
Patrick
Patrick Mahomes did it. The best guy's on a trajectory to be, all-timer. Got a chance to watch, even for a little bit. Feels like it helps.
Yes.
Carolina's 0-2. I think we don't think that that's a great team. Yeah.
Speaking of fantasy.
Yeah.
How about the receivers now?
Oh, on that team? Viable? Deontay?
Leggett?
Ooh. 0 catches.
That was Bryce Young's fault, though.
Pick him up.
He got the loudest they do a thing at South Carolina, and all the players that are in the NFL from South Carolina, and who did they start with?
George Rogers,
David Clowney, and monster roar, and then current NFL players, not Big George, and it's going. Then Debo, big roar. Leggett got the loudest ovation.
But that makes the most sense. He played there last year, so all the young kids know him.
Yeah.
I
thought his interviews have enhanced it too. Like, people got to hear him talk.
Personality.
Homegrown.
Love that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Among the 0-2s that I'm like, whoa. Baltimore losing to the Raiders. Speaking of the Philly losses, once is an accident, twice is a trend, 3 times is a problem. Shout out to Boomer. They keep losing 10-point leads at home. That shouldn't happen to good teams. And my respect for that organization, from owner, GM, coach, the whole bit, culture, it's real, all of it. That's a model organization. I don't understand how this keeps happening to them. Credit the Raiders. They stayed in the fight, but you can't lose that game. And we keep saying this about them. And 2 of the last 41 teams that started 0-2 made the playoffs. 2. And they go to Dallas, Buffalo, and Cincinnati their next 3. I believe Baltimore is good because they are. I also believe that their record after these next 3 could be like, whoa. They could put themselves in a hole it's going to be hard to climb out of. And what they did the other day, great teams don't lose a game like that.
No, they're not great. Right. Offensive line is not look great. I think it's a tough spot. Go to Kansas City. Obviously, the angst of losing to them last year.
What about losing McDonald and losing those pieces off that defense?
That's what I was getting to now.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Queen and the defense getting on the same page. They have talent. They're going to bring it. Unfortunate circumstance. But that division, that's why it's my favorite in football, is a bloodbath. And once they start playing each other, we'll have a better idea. And what do they say? The cream rises to the top.
Tends to.
Who are you picking? Dallas? Baltimore?
This week, Baltimore has to win that football game. Here's the thing. The result of that game.
Are they favored?
I have no idea. The result of that game is great content for all of us to talk about football, because either Dallas is 1-2, panic, Stephen A. going bananas on First Take, laughing at the Cowboys, or the Baltimore Ravens are 0-3. Baltimore's -1. Sunday, 4:25. Baltimore. They have to win the game. They're going to win the game.
NFL picks and winners.
I think that's what I'm doing, because as bad as the winners have been in college, the way I tend to see the board, everything worked Sunday and Monday. Everything. Except Tennessee, because Will Levis is intent on just handing the ball to the other team. How about the Callahan, his coach? What the fuck are you doing? And that was the correct question to ask. You just cannot be doing that. Week 1, he pitches the ball sideways. The Bears get a pick 6, then they lose because of that. Mm-hmm. It's a 7-0 lead over the Jets. You're at the 10-yard line on 3rd and 6. Eat it and get 3 points. No. I give Levis credit afterwards. He's like, man, I gotta tighten that up. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. That was a rough one. What else do I have written on the card? You got anything that's just anything from the end? The quarterback numbers, the field goal numbers is just it's early to make. Oh, I had one more thing for you, because it's a combination of 0-2 and the quarterbacks, and Jacksonville's 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
I watched them Sunday.
Okay, how are the boys doing with the Jags?
They're like, Daddy, they're not playing well. Lawrence said it. We suck. You're right. They paid you on the upper echelons of quarterbacking. As I've said many times, I'll continue to say it. These dudes get paid. Dak gets paid. You got paid, Lawrence. The top of the guys that give teams a chance are going to be paid like Patrick Mahomes. Because if you don't have one of those guys, then you end up in a situation where, all right, let's see what Bo Nix can do. Whoa, all right. It's early, but you're asking too much of people to throw some youngster out there, and teams that don't have quarterbacks don't have a shot. But Jacksonville's supposed to look a whole lot different than they looked weeks 1 and 2. And you're paying Lawrence $275 million for 5 years. He's on a 7-game losing streak. We went to Jacksonville on a Monday night in early December last year against Cincinnati, who did not have Burrow. Lawrence got hurt late in that game, tried to play through it. I give him all the credit in the world for trying to be out there for his guys. The only game they've won since then, they beat Carolina, and Beathard was the quarterback in that game. So they haven't won a game since mid-December of last year. Lawrence has lost 7 straight starts. And I think Kirk has like 1 catch. They didn't have Ingram, who that's another guy in the list of people. He pulled a hamstring, I guess, pregame. And that Browns defense, yeah, I get it. They're a lot to deal with, but they just that's not what they paid for. You got to be better than this.
Yeah, I think the world of Doug Peterson. He's won a Super Bowl. We saw the backup quarterback last night, Nick Foles, getting honored. And to me, it comes down to players executing. When I look at that pass game, I didn't turn it on until fourth quarter last week. I didn't watch him in week 1 against the Dolphins.
Bad.
And nothing looks on the same page. And what Cleveland does defensively really same thing. They got 95 on one side, always coming at you. And I will say this, watching the Browns, no one gets held more than Myles Garrett. It's amazing what people get away with blocking that man.
I think the officials just feel sorry for you. They're like, well, I don't know what you're supposed to do against that man. Look at him.
I would lose my mind. But the pressure that they put on you and the idea of what do they do well, I don't think Jacksonville has figured that out. But again, to your point, that's on the quarterback. Figure it out. Get the ball in the right spot and get some flow. Get some,
Nothing is easy for them. Nothing.
Yeah.
When you watch them, it's and I don't get it. And I'm sure it's more than just Lawrence, but when you get that number, sorry, it's on you. You got to do something. Their next 2 games are at Buffalo and at Houston. So it's like it's the same thing as Baltimore. It's like not only are you 0-2, but you're up against a schedule where you could find yourself in the kind of hole where I get it's a long season and there's time, but you're not in that category with Kansas City where it just doesn't matter what their record is. Like they were bad last year at the end of the year. Said it many times. They lost Christmas Day at home to the Raiders, a team who didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. That's a real thing.
In your building.
That's a real thing that happened.
Watched it.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Aiden O'Connell threw for 50 yards. We beat you. And it didn't matter because they had 15 and all that defense and Spagnuolo, I understand. But they're the only one of them that there is. So where I don't think their record matters. For most teams, your record matters. And if you're one of these 0-2 teams that we didn't think would be 0-2 and your schedule is what it is, you're going to have to pull yourself together quick and in a hurry, or it's going to be October and people are just going to say, well, that's the end of that.
I have a medium rare plus take.
Not hot, medium rare plus. What is medium? Warm pink center? I hate when the waiters do that. I want medium
every time.
I want medium.
You have to do what Nance does with his toast. You got to show him a picture. This is how I want my steak.
Wait. Oh,
Jim Nance, not legend Scott Nance.
When you said Nance, I thought my friend Nance. No, Jim Nance has like a laminated card with a picture of the toast.
It's genius.
Hell yeah. I want the toast to look like this. People think Nance is nuts. No, I like what I like. Bring me the toast like that.
Scott Nance, crazy person.
But the best kind.
Yeah.
We love them. But when I order my steak, I just bring it the way I said it. You don't have to tell me a color.
Get a picture.
I don't know warm, but just cook it what I said. What are we doing?
Just want to gnaw on it. Although he has eaten steaks with his hands.
Hand steak.
Had one last night.
I did. Delicious. I used utensils last night.
You did.
Anyway, so it's not a hot take. It's a warm pink center take.
Medium rare plus take. Ready?
I don't know. I'll find out.
Houston, Texans have home field advantage in the playoffs.
Okay.
That division looks like ass. The Colts are a wreck.
Yeah, Richardson hit those deep balls week 1, and everybody loves that. I watched him against Green Bay, and Green Bay's defense was not great against Philly, and he couldn't complete passes.
And we're going to do this. I saw one of the Colts riders send it out through, 7 starts, and then he put Peyton Manning 7 starts. I'm like, come on, people. You have everything else on the roster. You got to get somebody to get him the ball. You just touched on Jacksonville, and Tennessee is
their defense. They've been close in 2 games. Yeah. I don't think Tennessee stinks. I just think Levis has 2 cataclysmic decisions against Chicago and against the Jets. They're going to be. I say they're all right.
Playoffs?
Tennessee?
Yeah.
No, I just said they're not. Okay. They're not whatever you said they were.
Hovering 500 around there.
I mean, it feels like what they kind of always are, and it's probably what they're going to be now. But I don't think they're terrible.
Jets.
What about Jets?
Are they good?
I don't know. I think we're talking on a Tuesday, which means I guess Aaron will be talking to Pat. He said when he talked to him the first time, we're going to be a team who ascends. I believe that.
When you look like that week 1, you can only ascend.
True.
Right.
But I think I believe him. I think when they drafted Braylon Allen, that was a guy from his freshman year at Wisconsin. He was one of those guys that looked like an adult as a kid.
They don't have guys like him on the roster anymore.
Wisconsin?
No,
you're right. They got bullied by Bama. But he scored twice. I mean, that's a hell of an option as your. In addition to Breece Hall, we have this dude. Terrible job by me not getting him in leagues. Knew I loved him. Just forgot.
We're going to revisit that one at the end of the season.
Bad job. I fundamentally I need to have a conversation with my GM, who unfortunately is me. So that's just my fault.
Here's my issue.
I think the Jets. I I like Buffalo better.
I think there's some similarities there, but I think the Jets' defense is better. My issue is Breece Hall's a nice player, and I know fantasy people love him,
but
he doesn't scare me. He fumbles constantly. I think you saw the addition of Braylon come in, and Garrett Wilson's like the only guy that really scares me on that offense.
Okay.
And Buffalo, kind of the same thing. He's working through.
Well, Buffalo doesn't have one. I mean, in Cook had a huge game against Miami. Game. But in terms of who Josh is going to throw the ball to weekly,
that's still you know what I'm saying? Like there's insufficiencies on both offenses.
All right.
And Buffalo did a great job of making plays in the secondary against Tua. I still think that ball he could not have thrown any better on the first pick if the receiver is just ready for it out of his break. I mean, he hit him right in the stomach.
Bounced off him and got
unbelievable. I mean, and then that was started to tail him. But I don't know what to think about the Jets. I probably should have watched Get Up. They probably touched on it. Maybe tomorrow.
There you go. Get
big.
Get
no, Friday morning we'll get the full. They play Thursday night. Who else didn't we touch on? Packers. Got to see what Love. I thought it was an unbelievable job by LaFleur. That offensive game plan with Malik Willis. You knew he wasn't going to throw it, and
didn't have to.
He really didn't.
When you run for two Bills, and good
luck handicapping that fantasy wide receiver situation too.
Like them all.
Like Wicks.
He scored. Coming up next week on Saturday night, am I going to talk to you from? Are you going to be in Norman?
I'll be in Norman, Oklahoma.
What's the pool situation out there?
The Aquatic Center. No pool team at Oklahoma. Like Oklahoma is a nationally renowned university, right?
Yeah, no swim team?
I thought over the course of time, I've seen an Oklahoma swimmer in the Olympics or something. No swim team.
Again, Grandma was from Miami. Mostly the bodies of water in Oklahoma and that part of the world. If there's water, you throw a line in and fish.
Bobber?
Yeah, get a bobber and try to catch some crappie. Out there at Shangri-La, Grand Lake. What's up?
When's the last time you were there?
In Oklahoma? When I was a child.
Okay.
But
that's a long time ago.
I'm old, but I remember, again, I had kin in Miami. It's always going to be part of my, story. Grand Lake. Fishing for crappie.
Yeah, I'll be at the hotel Saturday night. After
so they don't have a swim. They got a pool.
Yeah, the Aquatic Center already reached out. We're going for.
I love that it's become a thing that when Steve comes to town, he'd like to swim a mile.
Yeah,
good. Love that. And by the way, what are the picks on game day?
6-3.
There we go. I'm just gonna. You know what? The problem is I'm gonna have way too many games. I'm gonna be stubborn and I'm gonna look at these things and go, wait, I can get a touchdown with Oklahoma at home?
I cannot wait. Watching those teams on tape, I can't wait.
I think Tennessee's going to be one of those can't go against teams, though. Just you don't want to be on the other side of them. I don't think. I don't know. But maybe I'll just give out 9 NFL games. Come here, buddy.
There you go.
Come here, buddy.
Michigan's going with Orgy at quarterback. They host SC. Before the season, they do Game of the Year lines.
Right. How much is that game? How much has that line changed from the start of the year?
Before the season, Michigan was an 8.5-point favorite.
And how much is USC laying?
5.5.
Those lines are just for conversation. Like, what's the max you could have got on that anywhere? Like, how much could
South Point?
How much could you have got down on USC plus 8.5?
I think Chris could give you 1,000.
It's tip money, Steve.
Dimes aren't good for you.
I'm kidding. That's real dough, Jude. That's real dough, my guy.
Last year, Michigan made the big ordeal. Harbaugh didn't coach at Penn State. What did they do in the second half?
Ran the ball.
How many times?
Every time.
Get ready for it. SC, you want in on the Big Ten? Here's your chance. You beat an SEC school.
3 hours of battering ram.
Oh, man. But now you have the quarterback involved in those runs. Can't wait to see that matchup. Really, really interesting. Monster game in Stillwater. Down the road. Norman. Is that east, west, south? I'm sorry, I don't know my Oklahoma geography. I know they have casinos. Anyway.
We were talking about Gundy. I'm a Gundy fan. I like him.
Yeah.
Always have. I think I don't know. You had a great a great point about this. I'm a man. I'm 40. That was a long time ago. Like now you starts with a 5, and it gets late early. I think you start looking around. Like Saban's such an anomaly to be able to do it at that level at that age, and you just what'd you say? Like you just the point about coaches just.
No, just
the reality landing about what? How long am I going to do it?
What am I doing? How much longer am I doing this? And I go back to the great Mike Leach. I think that really, really made coaches that are in the latter part of their coaching career. I'm not talking about the young guys and all these great offensive and defensive minds that are getting jobs in their 30s. I'm talking about the guys on the back end, and I really feel like people are saying to themselves, I'm going to enjoy this on the way out. I'm tired of putting up this act for my alumni and impress people and say all the right things and give coach speak in every interview I do. I really think there's been a change. And
Gundy's 57.
Yeah, I was going to say it's got to be close to 60.
But see, he's always going to have that remarkable hair helmet and just be like, it's getting a little gray at the temples or whatever. But 57, I think you say it well, right? This is a guy who's just like, I mean, he's always kind of said what he thinks, but
he has the foundation and the longevity at how long he's been doing it. He's been successful. He's an alum of that school. Like he's very comfortable in the situation. So he's going to let it hang out a little bit.
Kansas State, and that Big 12 is the line that, for those that didn't hear the Saturday night pod, the great Reese Davis line about the Big 12. It's not the deepest, but it's the widest.
Sure is.
And man, that is a wide league where you're like, where's the game you look at and go, okay, we got a dub here. You don't feel good about many of them.
No.
You might not feel good about any of them. It's just in terms of this is a free one.
No one's talking about that team in Ames either.
Rocco?
Love them.
They're definitely the slept on of the group. This is a big one, Kansas State and Oklahoma State. So you'll be at the other row.
Utah, Oklahoma State.
I'm sorry?
Utah's playing Oklahoma State.
Oh, you know what? I snuck down the road and looked down at I had the BYU schedule open. Excuse me.
Ooh. Careful.
BYU plus.
I think it's a whiteout in Provo too.
Is it?
Like they're going to wear white shirts.
Understood. Thanks for that clarity there, Steve. All right, I'm going to stop talking. We've been talking for a long time here. This is this good little window. We'll set the table for what's coming up next week. Norman, big man's coming to swim.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk to you Saturday night and what?
Did you see Big Dom last night?
On the broadcast.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say hello.
I said hello. You're signing autographs.
He got Kelsey the South Philly tuxedo. The nice velour. Jason said it didn't breathe particularly well.
Schefter?
See, I'm pro that. They got me on that. Because Kelsey dressed up the Mummers. For those that don't know, you can Google it. It's a very regional sort of a thing there. He was dressed up as a mummer. I looked behind me. We were on the air, and he was hugging Bill Belichick in a mummer costume. It made me laugh out loud.
Scott, you guys were out with this at the Xfinity Live doing the first hour. I'm getting my laps in, trying to do 5 miles before the game. I walked by Schefter 10, 12 times. I had no idea who it was. I just thought they let some crazy fan down on the stands. Next lap, I'm coming around. He's sitting there waving to me. I'm like, holy shit, Schefter's dressed up as a bummer.
Yeah, he was. And this is one of those things that I had no idea. Our producer didn't mention this to me, so I go to Schefter in the A block thinking we're getting some whatever. And there he is. In a full mummer regalia, and it got me.
I thought they were going to put the mummer hat on you at the end of the show like they like to do, because that's always real funny.
Yeah, no, they didn't. They didn't. They let me be, which was fine.
It was really cool, though, Kelsey, when he came out for halftime, or even when he walked in the stadium and standing like away from him, not being in next to Big Dutch, who's got everything under control. The stadium did a natural wave. You know how people, the wave at the stadium. But as he walked by, everybody stood up, and it was really cool to see.
I told him because we rode in together on a golf cart before the show, before the game on the show, and I said, highest ratio of center jerseys I've ever seen anywhere. Not a lot of places where the center is a well-known dude, but and I get it. There's going to be criticism of the broadcast. It was very Philly-centric because of him. I would suggest that everybody just take a deep breath and recognize it was a one-off. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He works at our joint. He came back for Countdown, and there was this lens of his that was applied to that night. Wouldn't do it again.
What's the next game Countdown's going to?
Kansas City.
Okay.
New Orleans, right?
Yeah. His brother still plays for Kansas City, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be that. So maybe there'll be another one. Maybe it'll be.
If you don't know by now, ESPN goes a little extra. Like, sorry.
Yeah,
It
was a couple of hours of television. Some of it was that. Some of it was Atlanta, and yeah.
Good for the Falcons.
And at the 2-minute warning, I said we'll go inside the winner's locker room. It appears it'll be Philadelphia. We'll see. And yeah, apparently it's my fault.
Oh.
Did Scott Van Pelt jinx the Phil? Yes, I'm that powerful. By saying it appears and we'll see, I made Saquon drop a ball and allowed a defense to just not stop Atlanta. That's what I do. I'm that powerful. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go outside and go win the Powerball, fix all the disputes among all warring nations.
No, you should say I'm not going to win Powerball, and that means you will, right? Because you jinxed it.
Yeah, I'm going to jinx it.
You know what's great about that? When you 2-minute, not one human in the stadium, on the field or in the stands, knows or heard you say that.
No, but people out there paying attention did. And by the way, it's just a little technical thing. Like, you get 15 seconds to say something, and then you're back to the game. I mean, clearly you could say the caveat, well, if Atlanta can get a stop and get the ball and go down the field, obviously they can win.
15.
By the way, there's
10.
Yeah.
5.
Okay, well, it appears it'll be them. We'll see. Announcer jinx. Grow up,
just
man.
Take it and run with it every week now.
Just grow up. Honest to God.
Every 2-minute warning.
Yeah,
Scott
that's what I'm going to say.
Winner.
Yeah, exactly. Now every 2-minute warning, like, hey, I'm Scott, and I have the power of the gods. Watch what I do now. Watch the way I yield this massive power to change the course of human events. Joe? Honestly. We'll see you. Steve will see you in Norman.
Yep. Come on out.
You know what I need to get you? I have it. We need to get you some Miami War Dogs. Not Miami. It's Miami, Oklahoma. That's I believe that's the school there. Somebody sent it to me. I got some Miami War Dogs gear.
Oh. Where is it in vicinity to Norman?
How far away is it from Norman? When we were out there, we didn't go to Norman from Miami.
No, I didn't think you would.
I don't know.
Right.
Let's look it up. We'll figure it out. I'm sure. I feel like it's.
We got runners.
Close enough. What's the distance?
Is it spelled like Miami?
It is,
but it's pronounced
Miami. Make sure you don't say Miami. People will roll their eyes. They'll know you don't know.
I'll do that.
All right, we'll see you guys Saturday night and try to tighten up my winners game. Keep my poise.